Hello, everybody. This is Rack from Rack Attack Gamers YouTube channel. I'd like to talk to you today about a whole bunch of stuff. Number one, forgive me for my green screen stuff. I'm bleeding in here and out and everything else. I'm working on it. One of these days, maybe I'll get it right, or at least get the lights to get it right. Number two, how you doing with all this social distancing and isolation and everything else that's going on, huh? That's one of the things that prompted me to do this. Anyway, let's continue on. Let's see, the Star Trek set behind me. Well, nothing, no reason. I just like it, and I felt like that's the way I wanted to start, because the next screen makes me bleed out too much, because my green screen ain't quite there. So let's go to the next screen. Everything I am going to say is my opinion, okay? Just my opinion. Also, we're going to deal with speculation. And the reason I say this, and I usually lead in with this, is because I'm not making claims, I'm just thinking. And I want everybody to know that. So that's the way we're going to start. So, if I say the word war, what do you think about? You think about something like this, a battlefield with explosions and soldiers and helmets and guns and shooting. Yeah, I bet a lot of people do. Something like this, perhaps. Again, soldiers being dropped off with helicopters, and that's a battlefield. That's a war, right? That's what people think about. What about the United States and the power of the United States military, huh? The power of the United States military is phenomenal. The spending for the United States military it goes far beyond any other country's spending. As you can see on your screen, there's a pie chart. The United States is in blue. The rest of the world, other than specific countries, is in the yellow part. And of course, you got the specific countries. A little bit orangish color is China, and on down from there. So the United States vastly outspends any country for military equipment, and so forth. So the United States military is extremely strong. Let's continue. Well, that just goes along with the United States military being strong. So, if you are an enemy of the United States, for whatever reason, and you wanted to take it over, what do? You're going to go up against the United States military with all its might, all its technology? I don't know. That'd be kind of silly. Is there another way to take over the United States without going through a physical war? Let's see. What about Psyops? Psychological warfare. Now, psychological warfare for an enemy of the United States doesn't cost so much. You don't have to really be out in the open. You don't have to risk very much if you do it the right way. You can be hidden about it. So psychological warfare might be a good option for those that would want to take over the United States without themselves being exposed and being captured or taken over. Let's continue. Psychological warfare goes back for a long period of time. We're not talking some goofy stuff here. We're talking about real stuff that militaries around the world use. It goes back, this document's from 49, so I figured I'd throw that in. Anyway, continuing. Now, what causes war? Why do people war? Well, in the older days, proximity would determine your loyalties. If you are at borders of countries, in a country, this would be the old ways. What else is there besides proximity, like the closeness and borders and groups of people? Well, there's ideology. Now, the thing with ideology is that you don't need to have a location for it. And anybody can be of a certain ideological viewpoint, no matter where they're at. So within a country, you can have friends and enemies. This is why our Constitution it says foreign enemies, foreign and domestic. Anyway, getting back to the ideology part. There's been instances of, say, Freemasons during wartime not wanting to battle each other. Freemasons is an ideology. They have a loyalty to that ideology that goes beyond borders and countries and so forth. So they would meet each other on the battlefield and not fight because the ideology was the overriding factor. So ideology could be a new method of determining where you're at in the world. No more borders. No more loyalties towards a certain country, but maybe perhaps loyalties to a certain ideology way beyond the country. Now, whether this is good or not, we'll continue on and just keep going. If you wanted to take over a country, what's typically the first things you go after? Well, you go after lines of communication. You also go after, say, the educational system, especially if you're softening the country up for infiltration. If you can get your hands into the education system, you can mold the minds of the younger people in that country and therefore have yourself minds that have been set to your ways already. Continuing. What about influential parts of a country? Hollywood, for example, television, movies, commercials. All these are influential parts. So if you can take over the communications, all the news systems, the news media, news channels, local news, world news, whatever. If you can take over the news, you can control a heck of a lot of minds within a country. And I'm specifically talking about the United States. So within the United States, if you control CNN, MSNBC, and so forth, the mainstream media, you are reaching a lot of minds and you can control them. Same thing with colleges, universities, and so forth. Hollywood, again, movies, television. If you can put your ideological stuff within movies, television, commercials, and so forth, you can mold the minds of the future generation that would be more towards your way. I've talked about this before in past videos, but we gotta do it again. So when we deal with Hollywood, I am telling you, and go back and watch old videos of mine, that the molding of ideologies is there constantly. Hollywood, movies, television, commercials even. Things that are popped into movies that if you had the eyes to see, you could understand that they're trying to mold your mind. They're trying to mold you to their ideology. Let's continue. Because people are easily molded, unfortunately. They will sit there blindly and absorb instead of having critical thinking and maybe exploring, checking things out on their own. Next. So, who's this guy? What happened to him? Well, people didn't like him. Organizations, Twitter, YouTube, etc., 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 didn't like him. In the first day, when Alex Jones started getting banned, he got banned off 40 different platforms, I believe. Now, after the first day, after a few weeks went by, I think it was something like to the effect of 400 platforms. I forget. I forget if he said 200 or if he said 400. But does it make a difference? That kind of power shows that something's going on behind the scenes. This isn't just random stuff. Now, why Alex Jones? Well, what does Alex Jones talk about? Talks about the New World Order, globalism, the elite of the world trying to capture the world, trying to take it over. So why would you want to get rid of Alex Jones? Why would you want to censor his speech? Why would you want to stop him from talking? Because the elite of the world, the globalists, the New World Order, are trying to capture the world, and this guy's exposing them. Alex Jones is exposing them. They don't want that out there. He's waking people up. Let's continue. So he gets banned everywhere, which goes to show the amount of power that they hold. You're saying maybe to yourself, like somewhere back here, well, how are you going to take over all the TV stations and channels and colleges and so forth like that in Hollywood and whatever? How are you going to do it? Well, you know that during wartime, there's been armies that go in. You might have 100,000 people within an army fighting a certain war in a certain theater or more. So why can't you have 100,000 people infiltrating a country? slowly taking over their news, slowly taking over the media, slowly becoming a director in Hollywood or a producer, or slowly being a college professor, or whatever. Just slowly over 50 years or more infiltrating a country until you got yourself all positioned and you're ready to strike. Let's continue. What's the biggest crown jewel that you can get if you wanted to take over a country? Well, obviously for the United States, it's the White House. If you become president of the United States, you have a lot of power. Now, I've talked about this before about the New World Order. The New World Order wants that power. They want the White House, and I think they had it for a long, long time. And I think when Trump ran and won, it just blew them away. Because ever since, they haven't stopped trying to get him out of there, in my opinion. Let's continue. How does that show itself? Well, the first thing they did was yap and yell about the popular vote as opposed to electoral college. So you heard this complaining going on and on. They tried to remove him via that, and when that failed, what else happened? Well, they went with the Russia, Russia, Russia. Putin, oh my God, he's a spy. He's a Russia. And when that failed, what else happened? Well, Ukraine. They went with Ukraine. So Russia, Russia, Russia became Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Where actually other people had done more wrong in Ukraine than anybody. The things that they were blaming Trump for doing, others actually did. Yeah, you could investigate that yourself. Biden. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. All right, let's continue. After that failed, you had the impeachment. Impeachment process. Let's get anyway. That failed too. What are you gonna do? You're the New World Order. You're about to capture the entire world, and you're about to take over the biggest, strongest country in the world, the United States, and you just blew it. What happens? What happens when your impeachment processes and all your news, your demonization, and which, by the way, goes to the next thing I'm going to show you. What does it say here on this particular one? 1,501 negative stories about Trump as opposed to 186 good stories. Well, whatever. The percentage of negative stories trying to get rid of Trump just shows a couple things. One, they're trying to get rid of him. And two, they quite own the media. Let's continue. I want to really get into this particular one for a little bit because this goes to the psychological aspects of it. So let's zoom in. This is a chart of the usages of words in a specific magazine or newspaper, I believe. I believe it's the New York Post or something like that. Oh, New York Times. Here it is. The frequency of the words used within that newspaper from 1970 to 2018. Take a look at the keywords that have elevated abruptly at the end. You have sexism, misogyny, male privilege, toxic masculinity. Look at these charts, how they go way up, exponential rise right at towards the end. Transgender, gender stuff, non-binary. Let me see what other keywords I can pick out of it. Transphobia, hate crime. Well, that was on a steady rise, but good peak right there. Hateful, another quick rise. Are you seeing these? Maybe I even go zooming in. No, I don't want to zoom in too much. Well, anyway, you can find this online if you do a search for it, and you can look at it yourself. But these end parts that go up a lot. Let me back off a little bit. I'm too close. These end parts that go up a lot, to me, show manipulation. Someone said way back over here, before this big rise of mansplaining, they started to push an ideology. And this goes with every one of them. They almost all start at the right about the same time. So the ideologies, someone said way back whenever this was, let me see the dates again, 2018, say about 2012-ish, maybe that would be, maybe 2014. That's when this big rise seems to happen with every single one of these. All right. This is an ideology being pushed. This is someone who has very much power, who could pull the strings, and who said, hey, push this ideology out there. And that's why you got all these big peaks at roughly around the same time. These huge exponential type logarithmic uh, accelerations of the word usages that deal with New World Order stuff that they're trying to push. Let's continue. So, Psyops is a valid way to try to take over a country, especially if you don't want to do it militarily. You push out your ideological views through influential parts of media, colleges, etc., etc. And I believe that's what we're under. Ultimately, it's basically mind control. It's an easy way to do it. You keep pounding and pounding and pounding the people with your ideological views, and you put it into romance movies, and you put it into popular sporting figures speaking about it, or any other way you can influence people. You just keep thrusting it upon them and thrusting it upon them. And if you have the money and power to do it, you can really pound people with the information that you want them to have in their heads. Continuing, which, yeah, putting information right into your head the way they want you to think. All right, who's they? Well, again, New World Order, Illuminati. They're basically one and the same thing. Illuminati is an older way of discussing and describing them, and New World Order is the newer way. Let's continue. Let's talk about China. So, you're the Illuminati, you're the New World Order. You have a small group, maybe 1,000 people that know everything that's going on, maybe even less than that. And extended from the 1,000, you might have another 10,000 that are somewhat in the know, and then, but you're still nowhere near able to take over the United States, especially not militarily. I mean, you can do it psychologically, but you can't do it militarily. But yeah, so you have about 10, 11,000 people in your group, and you're saying to yourself, well, maybe we should start investing in getting our own military, our own might. What would you do? Well, you look around for a country that has a lot of people in it that isn't quite developed, and yet has, yeah, there we go, a rule, a iron solid rule, someone that's ruling over them, and they are not quite free. They don't have what the United States has, freedom and Bill of Rights and so forth. It's basically a dictatorship. And that's what you do. You take a country like that and you say, let's develop it. So what happens? Why would you want to develop it? Okay, well, you have mass workforces, easy, cheap labor, slave labor, sweatshops. Could be leveraged from some situation like this, where you have a country being ruled by an iron fist, and people that you can kind of rule around and tell them how to perform labor, 12 hours a day for very little pay or whatever. Continuing. The other thing is you have a whole bunch of consumers. You could also sell to these people, these consumers. This is another good reason to maybe develop this country. You want people to sell to. 1 billion people is a heck of a lot of people to sell your items to. So that's another reason they might have looked at China. Next, well, obviously there's the military aspect of it. You can foster a pretty darn big military when you're gathering it from 1 billion people. So, going back, they have cheap labor. They can sell to people a lot, and they can have a pretty severe military might coming from that country. So, the New World Order, where is it? Yeah, wherever it is. There it is. The New World Order would want to develop China. So, like I say, we're speculating here. Let's continue on. Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon visits China. Matter of fact, going back to my Star Trek thing, I believe only Nixon can go to China is one of the in one of the films they say that phrase. That anyway. Side note. So Richard Nixon, 1972, goes and opens up China. All right. So take a look at China's national gross domestic product from around that time. Now, roughly around here is 1972. Prior to that, we go back to all the way to 1952, and I wouldn't doubt it just stays flat way before then, too. So we have a pretty much flat line all the way up until when Nixon went. Then we have a slow rise going into a faster and faster rise until it's pretty much logarithmic, almost like those other charts that we were just looking at. This seems to me like someone developed China, the New World Order. All right, let's continue on. So you have the United States, you have China. China comes up. It's been developed by the New World Order, yet they're still a country, and we do trading with them. Now, since the New World Order is having China under its wing, what happens? Well, unfair trade deals, right? Since the New World Order can pull a ton of powerful people's strings, you eventually get an unfair trade deal where China is way up here and the United States is way down there. They're not making out a fair trade deal. So what happens during that? Well, Trump comes in and he decides to correct this situation. And he gets into a trade war with China. And basically, ultimately, China loses. China loses the trade war. Trump sticks to his guns. He kind of equalizes things and says, hey, you've been taking advantage of us for a long time. All I'm doing is trying to make it equal. And he basically says, no more of this. And he basically wins the trade war with China. So, the New World Order, you're under your wing country, 1 billion people that you've been garnishing and building up militarily and everything else. They have now got themselves in trouble because financially they can't keep up, the selling to Walmart where people can buy cheap stuff and just wrecking the United States economy slowly that way. Well, if you lose a trade war and you don't like the idea of losing a trade war, what could you do? Well, again, speculation. Anybody familiar with this thing yet? Where is it? There it is. Whatever. There it is. All right. The virus. I won't even say the name. Whatever. I don't want to say it too much. too many censors around. Anyway, so this thing is going all over the place. And now what happens to the United States? Well, United States economy, boom, shut down. Almost everything is shut down. People are in their houses, afraid to leave the houses, everything else. The whole damn thing's a mess. No one's going anywhere. The economy's going nowhere. Well, so far we've had toilet paper shortages and, I'm sure there's a couple of all hand sanitizers and stuff, right? But if this continues the way it is, we're going to have food shortages and starvation and disease and theft and death. And we can't even hold prisoners in anymore. We're releasing prisoners. Prisoners are escaping. And what else is going on? Well, what does the New World Order want? What does any military want to do when they conquer a country? They want to, first wreck its economy. That's what we're just saying. Toilet paper and so forth. Oh, all right, I got ahead of myself. The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is the Bill of Rights and guns. Where is the one I want now? There is the litmus test. The litmus test for determining whether you are a friend or an enemy of the United States is the Bill of Rights. Where is that now? Yeah. So, the Bill of Rights, freedom of press, freedom of speech, assembly, etc. And then you got the Second Amendment, of course, and of course the rest of them. But if you are a military-minded, wanting to take over a country, you don't want that country to have its guns. You want to get rid of the guns. So you have sheriffs, and you have mayors, and you have governors, and you have another governor, all trying to say you can't have your guns. We're going to shut everything down. No one's getting guns. Or we're taking them away, or whatever. getting pretty hairy. Can't give up your guns. We're under military attack, in my opinion. We are being taken over. This is a war. I've said this before. Go watch my past videos. We're going to lose this war if we don't get a hold of stuff. If people don't wake up to this new world order thing, if the Psyops of it's a conspiracy theory, don't worry about new world order. That's nonsense. Well, no, it's not. It's happening. It's being done. And now it's not only a psychological attack, it is a biological. Perhaps. Speculation, opinion, blah, blah, blah. So get out of my face, censors. I'm only speculating. I'm having people speculate with me, right? Next. So the litmus test. Who is pro free speech? Who says, let everybody talk, stop all this censorship? Who is pro guns and against the getting rid of the Second Amendment or infringements to the Second Amendment, which we have tens of thousands already. We should not have one infringement, let alone all these tens of thousands. We need to get back the Second Amendment the way it's meant to be. And the way it's meant to be is untouchable. Untouchable. Okay? No reasonable this or reasonable that or whatever. That's just euphemisms for them trying to steal your guns. Reasonable inch becomes a reasonable yard, becomes a reasonable mile. It's nonsense. They're trying to get your guns by 1,000 cuts. Next. So, yeah, the people that tear up things and tear up the Constitution, tear up the Bill of Rights, tear up speeches, tear up whatever. These type of people are not passing the litmus test for being Americans. I don't care what they say. Next, we're being played. Well, whatever. This is the New World Order, man. Go back and watch my other videos. If you don't believe it exists, go back and watch the music video I made. The first 1 minute of the music video. You got country leaders talking about the New World Order, etc., etc., etc. We're in big trouble. Because if they went so far as to attack us now with a bioweapon, which they could very well have done. Oh, that's another thing about this particular object, is that it just didn't form by itself. It was created in a lab. People have taken a look at this thing and have analyzed it and have said that this is a manufactured thing. This was released, more than likely, almost certainly this was released on purpose to bring down America, to keep putting in the screws to the American people as far as taking away all the Bill of Rights, guns, assembly, freedom, basically. They want total control. And we're losing unless we can get our heads out of our backsides and realize the New World Order actually exists. And start doing something about it. All right. So, what does this ultimately come to? Well, going back to ideologies. You have good versus evil. You have God versus Satan. If you delve into the Bible, if you delve into what's going on in recent times, a lot of stuff is matching quite nicely up to the Bible, especially Daniel and Revelations. So, when I say New World Order, we're basically talking about good versus evil. We're basically talking about that. You need to pick a side. And if you're saying, well, I'm a good person, well, then start getting into this war that's been thrust upon you. You need to start legally and lawfully fighting back, quote unquote. All right? Because we are on the precipice of losing the United States of America, the Bill of Rights, freedom, etc. We are on the precipice of losing to evil. And when evil gets a hold of you without any threat of having anything else done back to them, watch out. Because they believe the population of 7.8 billion people is way too much for this world. And they have the Georgia Guidestones, which says maintain the population under 500 million. So, 7.8 billion, 500 million. What's going to happen to 7.3 billion people? They are going to get rid of 7.3 billion people. If you don't believe me, go ask this little guy. He already knows. He already knows. Hey, good versus evil. Pick a side. And if you're saying you're on the good side, well then wake some people up to the New World Order. Start doing something. Or investigate it yourself if you doubt me. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is Rack Attack Gamer. Subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. Share. That would be nice. There's something you can do. Thanks. Bye.